The air was thick with anticipation on the evening of the Grand Étoile Ballet competition, held in the opulent Grandview Theatre in downtown Ashwood, a bustling city known for its vibrant art scene. 16-year-old Clara Hensley, a prodigious ballerina with dreams of Juilliard, stood backstage, her pointe shoes laced tightly, her pale pink tutu shimmering under the dim lights. Her mother, Ellen, watched from the wings, her heart swelling with pride as Clara prepared for her solo performance, a haunting rendition of Giselle that had earned her a spot in the national finals. Clara's grace was unmatched, her movements fluid yet precise, captivating everyone who saw her rehearse. But as the curtains rose and the spotlight blazed, Clara was nowhere to be found. The stage manager hissed into his headset, the audience murmured in confusion, and Ellen's pride turned to panic. Backstage was chaos, props scattered, dancers whispering. No sign of Clara. Her makeup bag lay abandoned on a table, her water bottle untouched. Ellen's screams echoed through the theater as security searched every corner, but Clara had vanished without a trace. The police were called, and Detective Sarah Klein, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for solving missing persons cases, arrived within the hour. Initial interviews revealed nothing unusual. Clara had been nervous but excited, with no enemies or apparent reason to flee. Her phone, left in her dressing room, showed no suspicious texts or calls. The theater's security cameras were maddeningly unhelpful, their grainy footage showing only a fleeting glimpse of Clara adjusting her hairpins before disappearing down a hallway. Rumors swirled. Had she run away? Was she kidnapped? The competition, meant to be her crowning moment, became a nightmare. Ellen, a single mother who had poured everything into Clara's training, was inconsolable, clutching her daughter's ballet slippers as if they could summon her back. Days turned into weeks, and the case grew cold. Flyers with Clara's smiling face, bright green eyes, chestnut hair, a dimpled grin, plastered Ashwood's lampposts, but leads dried up. Detective Klein pored over every detail, Clara's rigorous schedule, her rivalries with other dancers, her mother's financial struggles to fund her lessons. A tip line yielded nothing but false sightings and cruel hoaxes. The media frenzy painted Clara as a tragic prodigy, her disappearance a mystery that gripped the nation. Klein interviewed Clara's coach, Madame Lefebvre, a stern Frenchwoman who insisted Clara was dedicated, not distressed. Yet, a nagging detail bothered Klein. A stagehand mentioned seeing a man in a dark jacket lingering near the backstage exit, but he was gone before anyone could question him. The theater's back alley led to a busy street, and with no witnesses, the trail ended there. Ellen began to unravel, her days spent retracing Clara's steps, her nights haunted by visions of her daughter's final moments. The community rallied, holding vigils, but hope faded as winter settled over Ashwood. Klein, however, refused to give up. She dug into Clara's online presence, scouring her social media for clues, but found only ballet videos and innocuous posts about practice. A faint lead emerged when a fellow dancer, Mia, hesitantly mentioned Clara's cryptic comment about needing a break days before the competition, but she clammed up when pressed. Klein's instincts screamed that the answer lay within the ballet world, a jealous rival, a predatory coach, or perhaps something darker. As months passed, the case file grew thick with dead ends, but Klein kept Clara's photo on her desk, a reminder of the girl who danced into oblivion. The city moved on, but for Ellen, time stopped, her life tethered to the moment Clara vanished. Every creak of the house, every ringing phone, sparked a fleeting hope that was quickly crushed. Klein's team expanded their search, combing nearby woods and rivers, but found nothing. The mystery of Clara Hensley became a ghost story, whispered in Ashwood's coffee shops and studios, a cautionary tale of talent lost. Yet, 8 months later, a discovery at a landfill on the city's outskirts would crack the case wide open, forcing Klein to confront truths she never imagined. The weeks following Clara Hensley's disappearance stretched into a torturous limbo for Ashwood, as the once vibrant city seemed to dim under the weight of the unsolved mystery. Detective Sarah Klein, now consumed by the case, worked tirelessly, her office a maze of pinned maps, witness statements, and grainy stills from the Grandview Theater's security footage. Clara's face, those piercing green eyes and delicate smile, haunted Klein's sleepless nights, driving her to chase every lead, no matter how faint. The investigation had expanded beyond the theater, with Klein's team interviewing dozens of people connected to Clara, her fellow dancers, instructors, and even the janitorial staff. Ellen Hensley, Clara's mother, was a shadow of her former self, her days spent distributing flyers and pleading for answers on local news channels. Her small apartment, once filled with Clara's laughter and the soft strains of Tchaikovsky, was now a shrine of photographs and ballet memorabilia, each item a painful reminder of her absence. Ellen's desperation led her to consult psychics and amateur sleuths, none of whom provided credible leads, only deepening her despair. Klein, meanwhile, focused on the ballet world, suspecting the answer lay within its competitive underbelly. She interviewed Clara's rival, Mia Thornton, a talented but volatile dancer who had placed second to Clara in regional competitions. Mia's guarded responses and nervous glances raised Klein's suspicions, but she had an alibi. She was on stage during the window of Clara's disappearance. Still, Mia's mention of Clara's needing a break comment gnawed at Klein, hinting at a hidden stress the young ballerina hadn't shared with her mother. Klein also scrutinized Madame Lefebvre, Clara's coach, whose strict demeanor and evasive answers about Clara's mental state suggested she knew more than she let on. Lefebvre insisted Clara was thriving, but a search of her office uncovered a locked drawer containing letters from parents complaining about her harsh methods. None, however, mentioned Clara directly. The stagehand's report of the man in the dark jacket became a focal point, but canvassing the theater district yielded no new witnesses. Klein's team analyzed traffic camera footage from the surrounding streets, spotting a black sedan speeding away from the theater around the time Clara vanished, but the license plate was obscured and the lead fizzled. The media, hungry for updates, began speculating wildly, with tabloids suggesting Clara had eloped or joined a cult, theories that infuriated Ellen and frustrated Klein. Community vigils continued, but attendance dwindled as winter gave way to spring, and Ashwood's attention shifted to newer headlines. Klein, however, uncovered a potential breakthrough when she revisited Clara's social media. A deep dive into her private messages revealed a conversation with an anonymous account, Shadowpaw, who had been sending Clara cryptic messages about escaping the pressure and finding freedom. The account was a dead end, created through a burner email and deleted shortly after Clara's disappearance, but it suggested someone had been manipulating her emotionally. Klein's tech team traced the account's IP to a public library in Ashwood, but the trail stopped there, as the library's computers were accessible to anyone. Ellen, grasping at this new information, begged Klein to investigate every library patron, but the task was impossible without more evidence. Meanwhile, Clara's best friend, Sophie, revealed that Clara had been unusually quiet in the weeks before the competition, often staring into space during rehearsals. Sophie recalled Clara mentioning a secret plan but dismissed it as typical teenage exaggeration. Klein pressed Sophie for details, but the girl's guilt over not speaking up sooner left her distraught and unhelpful. The investigation took a darker turn when Klein interviewed a former dancer, now a recluse, who hinted at a shadow network within the ballet world, coaches and sponsors exploiting young dancers' ambitions. This lead sent Klein down a rabbit hole of financial records, uncovering that Madame Lefebvre had received large, unexplained payments from an offshore account in the months before Clara's disappearance. Confronted, Lefebvre claimed the money was a donation for the studio, but her story was shaky, and Klein placed her under surveillance. As summer approached, a tip came from a homeless man near the theater, who claimed he'd seen a girl matching Clara's description being hustled into a car that night, but his history of mental illness and heavy drinking made him an unreliable witness. Klein's frustration mounted as every lead seemed to unravel, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that the answer was close, hidden in plain sight. Ellen, meanwhile, began following Lefebvre herself, convinced the coach was involved, her actions bordering on obsession. The community's hope faded, replaced by resignation, but Klein doubled down, her team combing through every detail of Clara's life, from her diet to her friendships. A chilling moment came when Klein found a small, handwritten note in Clara's ballet bag, overlooked in the initial search. "Meet me at 9. Don't tell." The handwriting didn't match anyone in Clara's circle, and forensic analysis offered no clues. As the 8th month approached, Klein's exhaustion was palpable, but she refused to let Clara become another statistic. Ellen, too, clung to hope, though her health was deteriorating under the strain. The investigation had become a labyrinth of half-truths and dead ends, but a call from a landfill worker on the city's outskirts was about to change everything, pulling Klein and Ellen toward a truth they weren't prepared to face. 8 months after Clara Hensley vanished from the Grandview Theater, a call from the Ashwood Municipal Landfill jolted Detective Sarah Klein's investigation into a new, harrowing phase. A worker sorting through refuse at the sprawling, odorous site had stumbled upon a tattered pink ballet slipper, its satin stained but unmistakably delicate, buried among heaps of garbage. The discovery sent a chill through Klein, who arrived at the landfill within hours, her boots sinking into the muddy terrain as she surveyed the scene. The slipper, identified by Ellen Hensley through a tearful video call as one of Clara's custom-made pair, was no ordinary find. It was a beacon, reigniting hope and dread in equal measure. Ellen, frail and hollow-eyed, collapsed at the news, clutching Clara's other slipper as if it could anchor her to her daughter. Klein, however, approached the discovery with cautious determination, knowing it could be a breakthrough or another cruel dead end. The landfill, a sprawling maze of debris, posed a logistical nightmare, but Klein mobilized a forensic team to comb the area, sifting through tons of waste under the relentless August sun. The slipper had been found in a section of recently dumped refuse, narrowing the timeline to the past week, but tracing its origin was daunting. Trash from across Ashwood and neighboring counties converged here. Klein's team worked tirelessly, bagging potential evidence. A torn ticket stub from the ballet competition, a broken hairpin, a scrap of fabric that might have been from a tutu. Each item was catalogued, but the slipper remained the focal point, its delicate craftsmanship a stark contrast to the filth around it. Ellen insisted on visiting the site, her desperation overriding Klein's protests, and her presence, pale, trembling, clutching a photo of Clara, drew media attention, reigniting the case's national spotlight. Reporters swarmed, speculating wildly about the slipper's significance. Was Clara alive? Had she been here? Klein shielded Ellen from the cameras, but the mother's grief was raw, her pleas for answers broadcast across the country. Forensic analysis of the slipper revealed traces of soil not native to the landfill, hinting it had been transported from elsewhere, but no DNA or blood was found, leaving open the agonizing possibility that Clara was still alive. Klein's team traced the landfill's intake records, identifying a trucking company that serviced the theater district, but the driver, a gruff man named Carl, claimed no memory of anything unusual. His logs, however, showed a late-night pickup from an alley near the Grandview Theater the week prior, rekindling Klein's suspicion about the man in the dark jacket. She interrogated Carl, whose nervous demeanor and vague answers raised red flags, but a search of his truck turned up nothing. Meanwhile, Ellen's obsession with Madame Lefebvre intensified. She confronted the coach at her studio, accusing her of hiding Clara's fate. Lefebvre, indignant, threatened a lawsuit, but Klein noticed her hands trembling, prompting a deeper dive into her financials. The offshore payments Lefebvre had received were linked to a shell company, Artisan Ventures, with no clear purpose, and Klein's team issued subpoenas to unravel its connections. Back at the landfill, a second discovery, a faded Polaroid of Clara in her Giselle costume, crumpled but intact, sent shockwaves through the investigation. The photo, taken backstage the night she vanished, showed Clara smiling, unaware of what was to come. Its presence in the landfill suggested someone had deliberately discarded it, but why? Klein's mind raced. Was this a taunt from the perpetrator, or a careless mistake? She cross-referenced the photo with Clara's social media, confirming it hadn't been posted publicly, meaning it came from someone with access to the theater that night. The investigation pivoted back to the ballet community, with Klein re-interviewing dancers and staff. Mia Thornton, Clara's rival, broke down under pressure, admitting she'd overheard Clara arguing with an unknown man before the competition, but fear had kept her silent. The man's voice, Mia said, was low and commanding, urging Clara to meet him later. This revelation pointed to a premeditated act, but Mia's description was too vague to identify the man. Klein's surveillance of Lefebvre uncovered a late-night meeting with a man matching the stagehand's description of the dark-jacketed figure, but he vanished before Klein could intercept him. The landfill search continued, yielding a third clue. A cheap burner phone, its battery dead but its call log intact, showing a single outgoing call to a number registered to Artisan Ventures. The number was disconnected, but the link to Lefebvre's mysterious payments was undeniable. Klein's team worked around the clock, tracing the shell company to a P.O. box in a neighboring city, but the trail went cold again. "I'm close, Clara," Klein whispered to the photo on her desk, her resolve hardening. Ellen, meanwhile, began receiving anonymous letters, each containing a single ballet-related word: point, pirouette, stage, postmarked from different cities. Were they from Clara, or a cruel prank? Klein's forensic linguist analyzed the notes, finding no definitive match to anyone in Clara's circle, but their cryptic nature suggested a mind toying with Ellen's pain. The landfill discoveries had shifted the case from a missing person to a potential crime scene, but without a body or concrete evidence, Klein faced pressure from her superiors to scale back. Yet she couldn't. Clara's slipper, the Polaroid, the burner phone were pieces of a puzzle, each pointing to a calculated act. Ellen's health deteriorated, her hope now tethered to these grim relics, while Klein battled her own doubts, wondering if she'd overlooked a critical detail. The media dubbed the case the ballerina's ghost, fueling public fascination but complicating the investigation with amateur sleuths flooding the tip line. As Klein stood at the landfill, the stench of decay heavy in the air, she knew the answers were buried somewhere in this mess, literally and figuratively. The trail was heating up, but the truth remained just out of reach, waiting for the next break to bring Clara home, dead or alive. The landfill discoveries had thrust Clara Hensley's case back into the spotlight, but for Detective Sarah Klein, they were a double-edged sword, each clue a step closer to answers, yet a reminder of how little time remained to find Clara, alive or dead. The pink ballet slipper, the Polaroid, and the burner phone had transformed the investigation, pointing to a deliberate act, but the pieces didn't yet fit. Klein's team worked feverishly, tracing the burner phone's call to Artisan Ventures, the shell company linked to Madame Lefebvre's mysterious payments. Financial records revealed Artisan was a front, funneling money through a maze of offshore accounts, but a breakthrough came when Klein's forensic accountant traced a transaction to a real estate holding in Ashwood's industrial district, a derelict warehouse leased under a pseudonym. Klein's gut told her this was no coincidence. She led a tactical team to the warehouse, a crumbling relic surrounded by rusted chain-link fences, its windows boarded, and its air thick with dust. Inside, they found signs of recent activity: tire tracks, a discarded coffee cup, and, chillingly, a single ballet ribbon tangled in a pile of debris. Forensic analysis confirmed the ribbon matched Clara's costume, sending Klein's heart racing. This was no longer a cold case. Ellen Hensley, informed of the find, clung to hope, but her frail health confined her to a hospital bed, where she watched news updates obsessively, her faith in Klein unwavering. The media frenzy intensified, with reporters staking out the warehouse, complicating Klein's efforts to keep the investigation discreet. She interrogated Madame Lefebvre again, this time with the ribbon as leverage, but the coach's composure cracked only slightly, her lawyer stonewalling further questions. Klein's surveillance of Lefebvre revealed a pattern: cryptic phone calls and late-night drives to the city's outskirts. Following her one humid evening, Klein tailed Lefebvre to a seedy motel, where she met a man whose silhouette matched the stagehand's description of the dark-jacketed figure. Before Klein could approach, he slipped away, leaving behind a cigarette, but that tested positive for DNA not in any database. Frustrated but undeterred, Klein shifted focus to the ballet community, re-interviewing Clara's peers. Mia Thornton, now racked with guilt, admitted she'd seen Clara slip a note into her locker the day before the competition, but fear of retaliation had kept her silent. The locker, long since cleaned, offered no physical evidence, but Mia's story aligned with the cryptic note Klein had found in Clara's ballet bag. "Meet me at 9. Don't tell." Klein suspected Clara had been lured, but by whom? The anonymous Shadowpaw account resurfaced as a key lead when Klein's tech team uncovered deleted messages recovered from a cloud server, revealing Clara had been communicating with the account for weeks, discussing her stress and desire to escape the relentless pressure of ballet. The messages hinted at a plan to disappear for a while, but nothing suggested Clara intended to vanish permanently. Klein's theory darkened. Someone had exploited Clara's vulnerability, possibly someone close to her. The warehouse lead deepened when a search uncovered a hidden basement, its walls scrawled with graffiti and littered with fast food wrappers, suggesting recent habitation. A bloodstain, too small for immediate conclusions, was sent for DNA testing, and Klein held her breath, praying it wasn't Clara's. Meanwhile, Ellen received another anonymous letter, this one containing a single word, curtain, and a tiny charm shaped like a ballet slipper, identical to one Clara wore on a bracelet. Klein's linguist confirmed the letter's handwriting didn't match Lefebvre's, but their theatrical theme pointed to someone intimate with the ballet world. Klein's team dug into Artisan Ventures' connections, uncovering ties to a shadowy figure named Victor Grayson, a former ballet patron with a history of dubious investments. Grayson had left Ashwood years ago after allegations of exploiting young dancers, but no charges were ever filed. Klein tracked him to a nearby city, only to find he'd vanished again, his apartment empty save for a photo of a ballet troupe that included a younger Madame Lefebvre. The connection was too strong to ignore. Lefebvre and Grayson were linked, and Clara's disappearance seemed tied to their past. Klein confronted Lefebvre with this evidence, and the coach finally broke, admitting she'd taken money from Grayson to fund her studio but denying any role in Clara's disappearance. She claimed Grayson had approached Clara, offering her a scholarship abroad, but Lefebvre swore she didn't know his true intentions. Klein didn't buy it. Lefebvre's evasions reeked of guilt. The investigation took a grim turn when the warehouse blood test results came back. Not Clara's, but an unknown male's, suggesting a struggle. Klein's team scoured missing persons reports, linking the DNA to a drifter reported missing weeks earlier, deepening the mystery. Was he a victim, a perpetrator, or a witness? Klein's superiors, frustrated by the mounting costs and lack of a body, pressured her to wrap up, but the warehouse, the letters, and Grayson's shadow kept her pushing forward. Ellen, now bedridden, sent Klein a voice message, her voice weak but resolute. "Find my girl, Sarah. You're all I have left." Klein replayed it nightly, the weight of her promise crushing. A tip from a landfill worker, who recalled seeing a man matching Grayson's description dumping bags late at night, led Klein back to the landfill, where a new search uncovered a torn piece of sheet music from Giselle, Clara's competition piece. The coincidence was chilling, and Klein knew she was closing in. But as she pieced together Grayson's motives, a darker truth emerged. Clara might not have been his only target. Rumors of other missing dancers from years past surfaced, their cases eerily similar. Young, talented, gone without a trace. Klein's investigation was now a race against time, not just for Clara, but to stop a predator who'd been hiding in plain sight for decades. The warehouse, the landfill, the letters, all were threads in a web, and Klein was determined to unravel it before it claimed another victim. The warehouse in Ashwood's industrial district had become Detective Sarah Klein's obsession, its shadowed corners and cryptic clues a map to Clara Hensley's fate. 8 months after the young ballerina vanished from the Grandview Theater, the investigation had reached a fever pitch, with the ballet slipper, Polaroid, burner phone, and Giselle's sheet music from the landfill forming a trail that pointed to Victor Grayson, the elusive former ballet patron, and his ties to Madame Lefebvre. Klein's team, now working on borrowed time as her superiors demanded results, zeroed in on Grayson, whose history of exploiting dancers cast a sinister shadow over Clara's disappearance. A nationwide alert went out for Grayson, his grainy photo from an old ballet program plastered across news outlets, but he remained a ghost. Ellen Hensley, confined to a hospital bed, her body weakened by grief and illness, clung to Klein's daily updates, her hope for Clara's survival flickering like a candle in a storm. The anonymous letters Ellen received, each with a ballet-themed word and the final one with a slipper charm, had been traced to a post office near the warehouse, suggesting Grayson was taunting them, or worse, someone else was involved. Klein's breakthrough came when a facial recognition hit flagged Grayson at a bus station in a neighboring state, prompting a high-stakes raid. The operation yielded a laptop hidden in a motel room, its contents a chilling archive of messages to Clara's Shadowpaw account, revealing Grayson had groomed her for months, promising a glamorous escape from the pressures of ballet. The messages stopped the day she vanished, but a final, unsent draft read, "You'll be free soon, my star." Klein's stomach churned. Had Clara been lured to her death, or was she still out there? The warehouse basement, with its bloodstain and ballet ribbon, became the focal point. A second search uncovered a locked trunk, its contents a gut punch, Clara's competition tutu, torn and stained, alongside a journal detailing her fears of failure and her trust in Victor, who'd promised to save her. The journal's final entry, dated the night of the competition, read, "Tonight, I leave it all behind." Klein's heart sank. Clara had planned to run, but to where and with whom? Forensic analysis of the tutu found no blood, only traces of industrial cleaner, suggesting an attempt to erase evidence. Klein confronted Madame Lefebvre with the journal, and under relentless pressure, the coach crumbled, admitting she'd introduced Clara to Grayson, believing his scholarship offer was legitimate. Lefebvre swore she didn't know his true intentions, but her guilt was palpable. She'd taken Grayson's money to keep her studio afloat, indirectly delivering Clara into his hands. Klein arrested Lefebvre for obstruction, but Grayson was the key. A tip from a retired detective linked Grayson to two other missing dancers from a decade ago, their cases unsolved, their families broken. Klein's team scoured the warehouse's surroundings, finding an abandoned storm drain nearby. Inside, they discovered a makeshift camp, blankets, food wrappers, and a locket engraved with Seach. The locket, Ellen confirmed, was Clara's, a gift from her late father. Klein's hope surged. Clara might still be alive. The investigation pivoted to tracking Grayson's movements, with cell tower data placing him near the warehouse days after Clara's disappearance. A witness, a delivery driver, reported seeing a man matching Grayson's description dragging a large bag into the landfill, reigniting the significance of the landfill finds. Klein's team returned to the site, now under public scrutiny, and unearthed a sealed plastic bag containing Clara's phone, its screen cracked but data intact. The phone's last location was the warehouse, and a deleted video, recovered by techs, showed Clara, dazed but alive, in a dimly lit room, pleading, "Please let me go." The timestamp was hours after her disappearance, shattering the theory she'd run away willingly. Klein's resolve hardened. She was racing against Grayson's next move. A sting operation, based on a burner phone signal traced to a rural cabin, led to Grayson's capture. Under interrogation, he was cold, deflecting questions with a smirk, but the evidence, Clara's belongings, the laptop, the video, was overwhelming. Grayson confessed, claiming Clara had come to him willingly, wanting to escape her mother's expectations, but when she changed her mind, he couldn't let her ruin everything. He admitted to holding her in the warehouse, planning to smuggle her out of state, but refused to say where she was now, only hinting she was safe for now. Klein's team searched the cabin, finding signs of recent occupancy, but no Clara. Ellen, informed of Grayson's arrest, suffered a heart attack, her condition critical. Klein, torn between duty and despair, followed a final clue from Grayson's laptop. Coordinates to a remote field. There, buried in a shallow grave, was a body, not Clara's but another dancer's, missing for years, confirming Grayson's predatory pattern. The discovery broke Klein, but it also fueled her. A tip from a hiker, who'd seen a girl matching Clara's description in a distant town, sent Klein on a final mission. In a rundown diner, she found her, Clara, thin and haunted, working under a false name. Grayson had released her months ago, fearing capture, but threatened her into silence. Clara's reunion with Ellen, now recovering, was tearful, their embrace a fragile victory. Klein, watching them, felt the weight of the case lift, but the scars remained. Clara's trauma, Ellen's frail health, and the ghosts of other dancers Grayson had claimed. The landfill clues, the warehouse, the letters, all had led to this moment, but Klein knew the ballet world's shadows would linger, a reminder of how talent could be both a gift and a target.